Jack had always been the kind of person who appreciated a good laugh. His job as a mechanic on the bustling space station was often filled with long, tedious hours fixing engines and systems that never seemed to stop breaking down. But it had its perks, like the diversity of the station's inhabitants. From humanoid traders to towering insectoids and even sentient robots, the station was a living tapestry of alien life. It was in this colorful mix that Jack's sense of humor often found a way to shine. One day, while working in one of the quieter corners of the station, Jack noticed her. She walked through the metal corridors with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, her every step fluid and deliberate, like someone who belonged in a place far beyond the confines of the station. She was striking. Her skin was a deep violet, smooth and almost translucent in places, shimmering faintly under the station's artificial lights. Her eyes, glowing a pale blue, looked like they could pierce through the very fabric of space. She wore flowing clothes, glistening with iridescent colors that seemed to shift with every movement. It was the kind of sight that made Jack pause, almost as if time itself had slowed down just to take in her presence. The crew around him didn't seem fazed, but Jack couldn't help but stare. To him, she was a perfect subject for one of his typical jokes. "Hey," he said to his friend Sam, nudging him with his elbow. "What do you think of her? A walking galaxy, huh?" His laughter was light, playful, but Sam didn't laugh. He glanced around nervously as if waiting for something bad to happen. Jack shrugged it off. After all, it was just a harmless joke. He wasn't trying to offend anyone. He turned back to look at the woman, only to find that she was staring directly at him. Her gaze was unwavering, cold, and sharp. Jack could feel the weight of her eyes on him, like she could see straight through to his very soul. For a moment he felt small, as if he was the one who had been caught in a trap. But then she smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile you'd expect after a compliment or a joke. There was something about it that made Jack's stomach twist, something unsettling. It wasn't an angry smile or a friendly one. It was more, knowing, as if she understood something that Jack didn't. "Do you think it's a joke?" she asked, her voice soft yet filled with a strange resonance, like her words carried a weight far beyond their simplicity. Jack blinked, unsure how to respond. I was just—" "That's not what I asked," she interrupted, her tone unyielding. "Do you think my appearance is a joke?" Her eyes flickered briefly, and Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. She wasn't angry, but the way she spoke, calm, deliberate, almost predatory, made his heart race. He could feel the heat rising in his cheeks. He hadn't meant it in a bad way, but somehow, the situation had taken a turn he hadn't expected. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it," Jack said, trying to recover. "It's just a joke, humor," she said slowly, drawing the word out. "A coping mechanism for the weak." Her words hit Jack harder than he expected. It wasn't the insult that stung, but the way she said it, like she had no time for his trivialities. It was as if his very existence, the human need for laughter and lightheartedness, was something beneath her. Without saying another word, she turned and walked away, her presence lingering in the air long after she was out of sight. Jack stood there for a moment, feeling the silence press in on him. The laughter from the rest of the crew had died down. Sam shot him an uneasy look, but Jack couldn't tell whether it was because of the woman or because of what had just happened. "Man, you really shouldn't joke about stuff like that," Sam said quietly. "You don't know who she is." Jack didn't respond immediately. His mind was still stuck on the way the woman had looked at him. He had expected a polite laugh, maybe even a comment about how humans always seem to be making light of things they didn't understand. But her reaction, it was like she had seen through him, past the joke, past the surface-level comment. "I didn't think it was that serious," Jack finally muttered, his voice trailing off as he turned back to the engine he had been working on. But something about that moment stayed with him. It nagged at him, like an itch he couldn't scratch. Days passed since the strange encounter with the alien woman, and Jack couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that had settled in his chest. At first, he had tried to brush it off as nothing more than an awkward exchange. After all, it was just a joke, right? But something about the woman's reaction had stuck with him, lingering in the back of his mind like a haunting melody he couldn't forget. He couldn't help but notice the way his crew mates avoided talking about her, even when they were gathered in the break room for meals. They'd exchange quick glances, as if she were a topic too dangerous to discuss openly. Jack hadn't known her name, but it didn't seem like anyone else did either. The rumors, however, spread like wildfire. The woman was not just any alien, she was a messenger of the stars, as the others called her. Her people were ancient, their history woven through the very fabric of the universe. Her arrival on the station was not a coincidence, and Jack began to sense that there was something more to her than just her otherworldly appearance. One afternoon, as Jack worked on a stubborn engine in one of the maintenance bays, he saw her again. This time, there was no mistaking it. She was looking directly at him. Her glowing eyes cut through the dimly lit room like lasers, and Jack felt the same unease creeping over him. "Are you avoiding me?" Her voice echoed softly in the vast room, though there was no real effort to raise it. It seemed to resonate within his very bones. Jack turned around, a bit startled. He had hoped to avoid another encounter, but there was something magnetic about her presence. She stood at the entrance to the bay, her stance calm and collected, her eyes fixed on him with an intensity that left no room for small talk. I wasn't avoiding you," Jack stammered, wiping his hands on a rag as he tried to regain some composure. "Just, busy." "Busy," she repeated, her tone thoughtful. "Interesting. You humans often use the word as if it's a justification, but is that really what you are? Busy, or merely running from something you cannot understand?" Her words struck Jack like a cold slap. He couldn't help but feel she wasn't just talking about his work. There was an underlying meaning, a deeper layer to her questions that he couldn't quite grasp. What did she mean? What was it that he wasn't understanding? Before he could answer, she stepped further into the room, her movements as graceful and fluid as before, but there was something different now. She wasn't just an alien. She was an enigma, something far beyond the understanding of mere humans. "Come," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "I have something to show you." Jack hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to turn away, but there was a part of him, a curiosity he couldn't control, that urged him forward. She wasn't threatening him, not in the way he would expect from an alien. But there was power in her that seemed to stretch far beyond anything Jack had ever known. A sense of destiny, perhaps, or a warning. He followed her through the winding corridors of the station until they reached a secluded part of the structure, a place Jack had never seen before. It was darker here, quieter, as if the air itself held its breath. In the center of the room was a large, intricate stone carving embedded in the floor, glowing faintly with the same bioluminescent light that seemed to emanate from the woman's skin. "You are not the first human to be confronted by something greater than themselves," she said, as if reading Jack's mind. "Many of your kind have touched the edges of this knowledge, only to retreat in fear or disbelief." Jack stared down at the glowing stone. There was an ancient energy to it, a sense that it had existed long before the station had been built, long before humanity had even dreamed of reaching the stars. It felt old, powerful. "Many believe that humans are nothing more than children of the cosmos," she continued, her voice softening. "That your kind is limited in scope and perception, that you are content to live within the confines of what you know. But there is more, much more. And you, Jack, you have touched the beginning of it." Jack's heart raced. He didn't understand. What was she talking about? How had he, a simple mechanic, become part of something so grand? "You think you are insignificant, don't you?" She read his thoughts again, but this time there was no judgment in her voice, only a deep understanding. "But you have seen something few others have. You have glimpsed the door to the universe's greater truths, and yet you still stand at the threshold, afraid to step through. Jack swallowed hard. Her words were cryptic, but they resonated within him. He didn't want to believe it, didn't want to entertain the idea that his entire existence might be part of some larger cosmic plan. But as she spoke, Jack could feel it, an undeniable truth, like a key unlocking something inside him. You see, your kind is not as powerless as you believe, she said. The universe is not some random series of events, nor is it a place bound by the rules of chance. You are connected to it in ways you have yet to understand, and soon you will. Jack felt a sudden shift in the air, a hum, a pulse, like the very walls around them were vibrating with an ancient energy. The woman's glowing eyes seemed to intensify, and for the first time, Jack felt as if he were being pulled into her world, into the unknown that she represented. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Your joke, she said quietly, was not just a jest. It was a call to something greater, something within you. I have seen it, Jack, the potential, the spark. You may not yet understand it, but it is there. Jack didn't know how to respond. He had never considered himself special. He was just a mechanic, a simple worker trying to get by. But the way she spoke to him, the way she saw something in him that no one else did, it left him feeling both honored and deeply afraid. You will learn, she said, a note of finality in her voice. But first, you must understand that the universe does not work in the way you think it does. Power is not given, it is awakened. And you, Jack, are about to awaken something inside you. Before Jack could say anything, the woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the station. But her words lingered in the air, a promise, or perhaps a warning, that Jack couldn't ignore. As he stood there, staring at the glowing stone, he felt a strange stirring deep within him, like something was awakening, just as she had said. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in his life, Jack felt as if he were on the cusp of something far greater than he could have ever imagined. Jack couldn't shake the strange sensation that had taken hold of him. After the encounter with the alien woman, his life felt different. It wasn't just the power he sensed in her, or the cryptic words she had spoken. It was something deeper, a feeling that he was no longer just a mechanic, no longer just a regular human working on the space station. He had crossed a threshold, and whether he liked it or not, his life was now entangled with forces far beyond his comprehension. In the days that followed, Jack found himself haunted by her words. The universe didn't work the way he thought it did. Power wasn't something you were given, it was awakened. But how? And why had she singled him out? He was just an ordinary guy. What did she see in him? The station felt different now. The people around him seemed oblivious, wrapped up in their own daily routines. But Jack noticed things more acutely. The subtle hum of the machinery, the way the lights flickered in the corridors, the quiet murmurs of alien languages that echoed through the halls. It was as if the entire station was alive, watching, waiting. One evening, as he sat in the break room, Jack found himself staring at the empty seat where the alien woman had once sat. He hadn't seen her since that day in the secret chamber, and he couldn't help but wonder if she would ever come back. But just as he was about to push the thought aside, he felt it, a sudden, almost imperceptible shift in the air, a hum that reverberated deep within his chest. He stood up instinctively, his heart racing. Without thinking, he walked to the maintenance bay where he had first met her. The space was quiet, illuminated only by the faint glow of the station's artificial lights, and there she was. The woman stood in the center of the room, her presence as commanding as ever. This time she wasn't just standing there. She was surrounded by a swirling energy, a field of glowing light that seemed to dance around her, bending the very fabric of space. Her eyes were closed, and she seemed to be in some kind of trance, as if she were channeling a force that was far beyond anything Jack had ever seen. "Jack," she said softly, her voice breaking through the stillness of the room. I have been waiting for you." Jack stood frozen, watching her with a mix of awe and fear. "How did you know I'd be here?" "You have already felt it," she replied, her voice like music, calm and steady. "The awakening. You are not the same as you were before. You have begun to understand that there is more to you than you have realized." Jack took a hesitant step forward. "I don't understand. What's happening to me?" The alien woman opened her eyes, and Jack was caught once again by their piercing, glowing intensity. "You have begun to awaken, Jack. The potential within you is stirring. You can feel it, can't you? The energy, the power that has always been there waiting to be unlocked. But it is not something you can control, at least not yet." Jack swallowed hard. He could feel it. Something was different. A strange energy pulsed within him, something that resonated deep in his bones. It was subtle, but it was there. It was as if his entire being was vibrating in tune with something ancient, something cosmic. But it was fleeting, just out of reach, like a dream he couldn't fully grasp. "What do I have to do?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "You must learn to control it," she said simply. "But you cannot do this alone. You must first learn to see beyond the surface of things, to understand the true nature of the universe and your place within it." Jack felt a wave of frustration. "How? How am I supposed to do that? I'm just a mechanic, for crying out loud. I fix things, I don't." "You are more than that, Jack," she interrupted, her voice firm but patient. "The universe does not view you as just a mechanic. It sees you as a being capable of far more. You have the potential to become something greater, something that could change the course of history. But first you must understand the truth of your own existence." Jack shook his head. "This is too much, I don't." "You do not have the luxury of doubting yourself, Jack," she said, stepping closer. "You have been chosen, not by me, but by the forces of the universe itself. And now you must choose. Will you accept your destiny, or will you turn away from it?" The words hit Jack like a thunderclap. The weight of them, the responsibility, the gravity of the choice he was being asked to make, it was more than he could bear. But there was something in her gaze, something unwavering that made him feel as though he had no choice. It was as if the universe itself was watching, waiting for his decision. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Because you have always been capable," she answered, her tone softening. "But you needed to be pushed. You needed to see that there is more to you than what you have allowed yourself to believe." Jack took a deep breath. He was terrified, but there was something within him that felt undeniably drawn to the path she was offering. The fear, the uncertainty, it was all part of the process. He had already crossed a threshold and there was no going back. "Okay," he said, his voice steadying. "I'll do it, I'll learn, but where do I start?" The woman smiled, a rare expression of approval. "Good," she said. "The first lesson is simple. You must learn to quiet your mind and listen to the energy around you. The universe speaks to those who are ready to hear it." She raised her hand, and with a simple gesture, the energy around her swirled, lifting off the ground in a shimmering vortex. Jack felt a tug within him, as if the energy was calling to him, drawing him in. He focused, trying to clear his thoughts, trying to quiet the rush of questions and doubts that swirled in his mind. Slowly, the world around him seemed to fade away, and all that remained was the energy. "You are connected to it now," she said, her voice soft but resonant. "Can you feel it? The hum of the universe, the pulse of life itself. It is within you just as it is within everything around you." Jack closed his eyes, focusing harder. At first there was nothing, but then a faint sensation, like a whisper in his mind. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A feeling, a presence. He wasn't sure if it was his own thoughts or something else, but it felt like the very fabric of reality was vibrating around him. I think I feel it," Jack said, his voice filled with wonder. "You are just beginning," the woman said, her smile widening. "This is only the start. There is much more to discover, much more to understand. But remember this, power is not given, it is awakened." As the energy swirled around them, Jack knew that his life had just changed forever. There was no turning back. He had been awakened, and now he had to learn how to wield the power within him.